As soon as Anna was able to walk, her mother started teaching her how to survive a harsh, solitary life in the northern woods. Living in such an extremely remote and dangerous area required skill and resilience. When sunlight became too dim for productive activities, they would take refuge in their house, a sturdy old cabin constructed to resist the toughest winters. Close to the hearth's warmth, Anna would rest in her mother's arms, surrounded by the few wooden toys and masks she had crafted for her. Drifting off to sleep with stories and lullabies, she dreamt happy dreams, ignorant of the events that would soon change everything. Anna and her mother were stalking a great elk through the woods. They knew it was dangerous prey, but it had been a particularly difficult winter, and they were almost out of food. The specter of starvation frightened them more than any forest creature. Without warning, the elk reared, bellowed, and charged at Anna. She was paralyzed with fear as the whole world seemed to shake under the immense beast's pounding hooves. The elk was close enough for Anna to see the murderous fury in its eyes when her mother threw herself in its path, axe in hand. A blood-curdling scream escaped from her lips as the elk impaled her upon its antlers and hoisted her into the air. With all her strength, she brought her axe down on its head again and again while it tried to shake her loose. With a sickening crack, the antlers snapped and Anna's mother was free, and the beast collapsed. Anna was too small to move her mother's broken body, so she sat with her in the clearing where she had fallen. To distract her from the dying elk's cries, Anna's mother held her and hummed her favorite lullaby. They stayed like that, the huntress and the elk getting quieter and colder, until Anna was alone in the silent forest. Eventually, she stood up and started the long walk back home. Still a child, she knew just enough about life in the frozen forest to survive. She followed her instincts and became one with the wild. She got older and stronger and practiced her hunt. As she grew into a dangerous predator, her humanity became a half-remembered dream. She widened her territory and lived off her hunts. She worked her way up through squirrels, hare, mink, and foxes. Eventually, she grew tired of them and hunted more dangerous animals like wolves and bears. When unsuspecting travelers came through her woods, she discovered her new favorite prey: humans. Unlucky souls who strayed into her territory were slaughtered like any other animal. She liked to collect their tools and colorful garments, and especially toys when there were little ones. But she could never bring herself to kill the little girls. Girls she would take back to her house deep in the woods. They were precious, and looking at them woke up something deep in her heart. She craved the closeness of a loved one, a child of her own. Among the pillaged wooden toys, dolls, and storybooks she couldn't read, the girls would be tied by the neck with a rough and chafing rope fastened firmly to the wall. She couldn't let them wander off, or they would surely die outside. Every time the girls would waste away and die of cold or starvation or sickness. Every time it plunged Anna deeper into a pain and sorrow and madness. She was compelled to try again, and started raiding the nearest villages to slaughter families and kidnap their daughters. She wore one of the animal masks her mother had crafted for her so many years earlier to try to calm the frightened children. Villagers spread the legend of a half-beast lurking in the red forest, the Huntress, who killed men and ate little girls. War eventually came to the forest. German soldiers began to pass through on the march to attack the collapsing Russian Empire. During these dark times, there were no more travelers. The villagers had abandoned their homes, and no more little ones to be found, only soldiers. Many of them were found with violent axe wounds. Whole groups disappeared mysteriously. Once the war was over, the rumors of the Huntress disappeared with it, engulfed by the red forest. Dawn bleeds across the craters and trenches and into the devastated forest. Explosions tear the ground, mud rises and showers Anna. Men tumble headlong into open craters filled with rotting cadavers. Mangled human and horse flesh make a feast for the rats. Other men are blasted to bits and pieces, some drowned in mud and blood. The brutal savagery of these human animals amuses Anna. She's never been so entertained. They are worse than the hungry wolves fighting over a carcass. Some speak words she understands. Others speak words that are foreign to her ears. A pathetic scream like nothing she's heard suddenly startles her. She follows the source of the sound into the decimated forest, where she sees a small canvas tent and Russian soldiers guarding foreign prisoners. She watches them all evening. She watches horrified when they execute one of the horses for dinner. So much meat wasted due to sloppy butchery. After dinner, the Russians grab one of their foreign prisoners and crush his head with a shovel to pass the time. They laugh and make jokes. She watches them in the shadows and laughs silently, not with them, at them. A shovel is clunky, the blows are awkward, the death messy. These men are neither fish nor meat. Her mother taught her better. She was going to search for another pack of human animals, but something catches her eye. Something that reminds her of her father, something perfect for her little Bushka. A gift. Anna hides in the shadows and fixes her gaze on the gift. The Russian soldier carves the gift as he guards and swears at foreign prisoners in the shredded canvas tent. They kill and torture each other because they cannot talk to one another. She remembers a book her mother once had. She pointed to the pictures and called them soldiers. They were the ones who butchered her father. Soldiers tear each other apart for reasons her mother could never explain. She watches them and doesn't understand. She's not sure they do either. Maybe they like the hunt, the scent of fear, the bloodlust. She stares at the perfect gift and wants to give them a little war they'll never forget. But there are too many, and her mother suddenly appears before her with a smile and tells little Anna that she'll need to thin the ranks. I can do that. I will show you. I will show you and I will show them where crawfish sleep. The Russian soldier does a peculiar thing to his prisoner. He ties him to a gnarled branch by his ankle and lights a fire a few inches under him. She scrunches her brow, confused. You kill the game before you roast it. But these soldiers enjoy his agony. She recognizes the yelling and shrieking foreigner. Just a few moons ago, he was torturing Russian prisoners in another tent. Just a few moons ago, he was the tormentor. The Russian holds the perfect gift in his hands, while the prisoner shrieks and squeals like a pig. She smirks. It's kind of a funny cry. It is. It's amusing. The Russians make jokes and imitate the squealing cry. She fights down explosive laughter. It's the most ridiculous sound she's ever heard. The sound of an approaching soldier suddenly startles her. She wheels to see a glittering bayonet rushing her. She evades and grabs the pathetic, scrawny man by the neck, curls her callous fingers around his bulging apple, and yanks with devastating fury. With a choked gurgle, he collapses and lies dead on the ground, with his throat torn out. She returns her attention to the laughing Russians and the squealing human swine. She smiles. They'll be making similar sounds when she's through with them. 4 Russian soldiers lurk around the tent, searching for their missing comrade. Anna stealthily tracks one soldier, inching closer and closer with every step. Poor pea-green mule. He has no sense these will be his last few breaths. She watches him for a long moment, then strategically steps on a twig. The crack makes him turn, but before he meets Anna's gaze, her axe splits his nose between the eyes, smashing his teeth and severing his tongue. She covers his bloody mouth with her hand as she rummages through his pockets for the perfect gift. Nothing. She raises her hand to let the choking gurgle sounds lure the other 3. Carefully they approach with bayonets raised and ready. She grinds her teeth in fury and bloodlust. She rolls their comrade's severed head in their midst. A moment of shock, and that's all she needs as she leaps out and drops 2 soldiers with one lash of her axe. The other soldier rushes in with a scream, and she meets him with a sweeping stroke that severs his head clean off the torso. A geyser of blood erupts as his headless torso staggers stupidly back and forth, as though searching for its lost head. The torso staggers forward, then pitches backward and collapses. The sounds of another attack reach her before the blade. She lacers left and right, and the body collapses in mangled pieces. The soldier stares at the pieces of his body around him in terror. She laughs and thinks of the story her mother used to tell. Sorry, Yaitso. Can't be put together again. Anna finds these soldiers curious. Where once the Russians and foreigners were roasting each other alive, they are now working together to survive her attacks. They're calling her a ghoul, a monster of the forest, saying she is a bodark. Together, the soldiers dig pits and sabotage their camp. Anna toys with them. She's outnumbered and she knows it. She weakens their senses by depriving them of sleep. Every night she approaches their camp, sings a lullaby, then howls like a bodark. The soldiers wake in a frenzy and scuttle in terror as she returns to her cabin to sleep with her little one. She rests for a few hours, then returns to her little war to reignite a cycle of terror. 1 or 2 sleepless nights and they'll be ripping each other apart. It will be a matter of walking in and taking what belongs to her little Bushka.